Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Amen. I'll now ask Director Feldwash to join us and lead us in the prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Domas,
Here.
Commissioner Helserman,
Here.
Commissioner Sample,
Here.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Here.
Commissioner Drick,
Here.
Commissioner Deaton,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Fiani,
Here.
and Commissioner Gross.
Here.
The quorum is present.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting.
So move, Smith.
Second, Deaton.
Been moved and supported. Are there any comments, additions, or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. The next item is correspondence. We have one resolution submitted to us by Tuscola County. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to receive and place on file correspondence.
Support Gross.
Been moved and supported that we place this correspondence on file. All those, are there any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Next item on the agenda is call to the public. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone that wishes to address the board?
Yes, I only have one card this evening, and that would be Chuck Wright, Handy Township.
Mr. Wright? You have 3 minutes. Thank you for being here this evening.
I don't need 3 minutes.
You don't need 3 minutes. There you go.
This evening, you're going to look at a resolution to apply the full faith and credit of the county for bonds for a drainage district. That bond, or at least in the resolution, says 8% coupon rate, which is a crazy amount for a municipal bond. Municipal bonds this week are averaging, for a 20-year note, 3.7%. That's up from 3.6% last week. 8% is junk bond status, not even a corporate bond. So I'd like you to take a look at this. If you don't have time tonight, possibly wait on this for 2 weeks until you get some more information and find out why an 8% interest rate for a county with a credit rating such as ours is being asked for. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I don't have any more cards from the room, but I do believe there are hands on Zoom.
All right. Who's up,
There
please?
are- The first one is Judy Daubenmeier.
Ms. Stoudemire, you have 3
Hi,
minutes.
thank you. Good evening. My name is Judy Daubenmeier from Genoa Township, and I am here tonight to speak about resolution number 2023-09-164. I believe this resolution is at best incomplete and possibly dishonest. The resolution says that Brighton Area Schools is requesting money for a junior ROTC program. Yet looking at your packet, I see nothing from Brighton Area Schools indicating it is the district that is asking for the money. I don't see a resolution passed by the Brighton Area Schools Board asking for the money. I don't see a letter from the superintendent asking for the money. All I see is one board member's name. And there's no indication that if you were to grant this money, that the board would even accept it. I don't see any indication of a survey, the number of students at Brighton area schools that would be interested in participating in this junior ROTC program. It looks to me like you're just doing a favor for a political crony by granting this money. I think you need to go back and do some due diligence and get some more information. Has the board passed a resolution? Will it pass a resolution? Will it accept this money? What is the level of interest among the students? I just don't think that, I know I wouldn't write a check out of my personal account for this amount of money with this amount of information. The information just isn't there. And I think you owe it to the taxpayers to be wiser students, stewards of the money that you're entrusted to, and get this information. To me, it looks like you're trying to force this on to the Brighton area schools. Whoever is requesting this money can go and say, well, they've already given it to us, we have to take it. And I think you should stay out of the internal affairs of the Brighton area schools and let them, they want this money, ask for it as a board. So I think this resolution should be tabled indefinitely until you have more information. Thank you.
Next, we have Colleen Quinn.
Good evening, everybody. I just have a couple brief comments. Number one, I would like to support that resolution to establish the ROTC program. I think given what's happened to our military and the troubles recruiting and so forth, this used to be something back when I went to high school that was made available. So I fully support that. My other comment is regarding this Tuscola County resolution. In alignment with all the good work you guys as a board have done in terms of keeping us a constitutional county, medical freedom, Second Amendment, I was just wondering if perhaps the board could consider adopting something similar for Livingston County. That would be opposing legislation that would preempt local control for solar and wind developments. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Cindy M.
Commissioners, Cindy McNevich, Hamburg Township. I'd like to speak to you about Resolution 2023-09-164, item 11 on tonight's agenda. This is a resolution to authorize ARPA funding in the amount of $150,000 to Brighton area schools to establish a JROTC program at the high school. Firstly, gifting $150,000 to one district is extremely unfair to the other 4 districts. I know that in discussion in last week's Finance Committee, it was stated that if all schools agreed to have the same start day in the fall, this program would be open to all students in all districts in the county. We have no idea if that's even attainable. Secondly, we already have an ROTC program in Howell that is open to all students in the county. So is a second one even necessary? $150,000 is a lot of money, and just because someone is requesting it and the county's attorney says that this is an approved use doesn't mean the county should do it. The county had designated ARPA funding to be given to Reaching Higher Incorporated to have programs in all 5 districts in the county. Their request, ironically, was for the same amount, $150,000, and would be much better. It would be a much better use because it would touch all students in the county. The commissioners have said in the past that they do not support giving to organizations that have diversity, equity, and inclusion in their training and mission statements. Well, ironically, the JROTC does have a D&I policy in place. I urge you to vote no on this resolution.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lori Cowan.
Hi, thank you very much. I wanted to address something from the last Board of Commissioners meeting concerning the amended agenda to include Fiani's resolution. First, the amended agenda did not appear until sometime the day of the meeting, so people like me who try to prepare days before, did not know of the amendment until soon before 6. I know that's absolutely legal to do, but what I object to is that members of the board discussing the proposed resolution with select residents so they could prepare and participate and call to the public with organized support. This is also legal in your discretion, but this is one more example that proves running this board with fairness is not on your agenda. Unless residents' views align with yours, there seems to be a blatant disregard for their opinions. Thank you.
Next, we have Ella Nikitin.
Hi, my name is Ella. Thank you for talking to me, for letting me talk. I'm from Heartland Township, Michigan. I want to talk about Resolution 2023-09-164. I agree with the comments that Lori, that Judy made about the thing. I find it interesting that this kind of resolution is coming from the kinds of people who constantly claim to be against indoctrinating children, because frankly, I think this kind of program is exactly what indoctrinating children is. And the other thing, I feel like these funds could be used for much better things. You know, as one person previously said, Reaching Higher program would be a much better use of these funds. And in addition, the other comment that, you know, this is for just one specific school district, what about the other ones applies here? I mean, we have the county here trying to fund a program in one school district, and not the other one, but, you know, I'm seeing there seems to be a lack of willingness to, for example, deal with the issues of inadequate transportation in Livingston County and of the lack of sidewalks in many areas. I feel like that's not being addressed, and that would be a much better use of this funding. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's it for the public in regards to hands raised. There's nobody else.
Thank you. We'll close call to the public and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. Let's start with the meeting minutes dated September the 11th, 2023, and the work session minutes dated the 13th, and the work session minutes dated the 20th. Chair will entertain a motion, please.
So move Sample.
Been moved
Support Helserman.
and supported. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is tabled items from previous meetings, and we do not have any. So we'll move on to reports, and I know there are some reports. Commissioner Deaton.
Thank you, Chairman.
You bet.
Hey, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I was able to participate from our subcommittee in POSAC and work with Ramon Baca, the Director of Veteran Services, to establish the first 9/11 Never Forget Trail Run. And it was an amazing success. I've done hundreds of these events, been an avid runner my whole life, and it was very well organized. The weather was great. We had 216 participants signed up. We were hoping for 250, so hopefully next year we'll double that. There were 45 volunteers, and the county departments that were there were EMS, 911, Sheriff's Department, Facility Services, and Emergency Management. Now, I wanted to give some kudos to Director Eggleston as we had our POSAC meetings and we were out looking at the trails in the springtime, and we would find issues with the trail or potential obstacles where someone could get hurt. Him and his crew jumped on it immediately, anywhere from building culverts to making the trails wider and making it safe for everybody. I want to thank Tim Church and Jordan Jones from the Howell Recreation When this idea came up early on in the springtime, they jumped right on it and were very helpful. They handle a couple of the other runs in our wonderful county, and they're all very successful, so we couldn't have done it without them. And there were about 8 major corporate sponsors too, which is pretty good for an initial run that helped pay the tab on this. And I just want to say I got pulled aside many times, and it was just great seeing the county, EMS and sheriff and 911 interacting with everybody. It looked like a great family event. My family participated and had a great time. So I just wanted to put that out there. Kudos. There's just probably too many people that were involved to thank you, but I did highlight some of the departments. And so on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, it was just an honor to be in the early planning and to participate and be involved in it. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Eaton. Are there any other reports? Yes, Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the privilege of being with the Howell Chamber of Commerce this past week. And the mission was to grow the membership. The Chamber of Commerce is an economic driver in this region. And for those who, if I've never made it abundantly clear, I am a big economic development person. We need more in Livingston County. The drive to gain more membership in the local chamber was so successful. We now have the 3rd largest Chamber of Commerce in the state of Michigan, out of Howell, Michigan. We picked up 175 new companies, entrepreneurs, and people that generally support and see the good of coming together as a community and working together to improve the economic conditions in the county. So just very pleased to report Janelle Best as president. I believe Diane Samples is their VP, and the whole team. I don't want to leave anybody out. They did a marvelous job and extremely successful, far beyond my expectation. I thought we'd pick up 25 or 30. We picked up 175. Several people from the county were involved. I'm very pleased to say that my team picked up way more members than Sheriff Murphy, even though he stole half my clients. So, but no, it's very successful, very pleased, and very happy for the chamber. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Great.
Thank you. It was reported in the local news on September 21st that the state of Michigan has ranked all 83 counties in who has the lowest joblessness, the least amount of unemployment. And our county came in first with the least amount of unemployment at 3%. And the 83rd county was somewhere near 7, 9, 8%. So we have another feather in our cap for being the lowest unemployment county. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have something I'd
Commissioner
like to say that I think is good for the group. I've been reading this book. It's called Critical Theories. And we've heard of critical theory, critical race theory. And there's a paragraph here that kind of brings it into focus. And I'd like to read parts of it just for our understanding, because when people say critical theory or critical race theory, most people don't, it just kind of goes over our head. And from its original conception, a critical theory is a set aside from traditional theory. Traditional theory seeks to understand and explain phenomena in terms of what is and how it works. But critical theory is different because a critical theory, by contrast, must satisfy all 3 criteria. First, it must arise from a set of moral views. In other words, the critical theories have a goal in mind. They have a goal in mind for society, and they're working towards it. And it's a different goal than the traditional values that we have. So they have a goal in mind. Second, it explains what's wrong with society and its current system. And that's an easy thing because there are a lot of things wrong with society. Third, it must be actionable by social activists who wish to use it to change society. So critical theory and critical race theory is used to transform our society. And as I view it, the critical theory people use a lot of Marxist ideals. You know, they set people against each other. The Marxist idea says this group of people is the oppressor and this group of people are the oppressed and they should fight with each other. And that's basically, and so if you want to know more, this is really a very excellent book. I recommend it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the resolutions for consideration. And I'll turn this meeting over to Commissioner Drick.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're more than welcome.
We're on agenda number 11, sub A, resolutions for consideration. Sub A reads number 2023-09-164. It's a resolution authorizing the distribution of American Rescue Act ARPA funding to Brighton area schools to establish a JROTC program at Brighton High School. May I get a motion?
Move it, please.
Second, Sample.
Moved by Domas, seconded by Sample. Are there any questions, comments, analysis, objections? Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I'm in favor of this, and I want to say why. I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but every once in a while I tend to do that. I have to ask myself, why am I in favor of this? And why have I been in favor of many other uses of ARPA that maybe won't move forward? But what we're doing with this money is as important as any other infrastructure we add to this county. We are building a bridge. We're building a road. We're adding a sidewalk. We're investing in tomorrow. We're planting a tree in doing this that we will never see grow, but very possibly the next generation will. And so it's this type of long-term investment that, while it may not fit in the normal purview of county governance, it's every bit as important as any other long-term investment we can make, especially when we're investing in our young people. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any further comment, analysis, questions, and objection? Anything? Commissioner Gross, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too plan to vote in favor of this request, although I have to confess that I have some concerns. It was explained to us last week that the request to establish the junior ROTC program needs to be approved by the Department of the Navy, part of the Defense Department. And while there's been acknowledgement of support from the Brighton area schools, we have not seen anything in writing. So it's my understanding that the approval of this funding by us doesn't necessarily mean that a check is going to go out anytime soon. That there's other approvals, if you will, that will be required. But this resolution supports the application process, indicates that there is a willingness on our part. And if the folks who are proposing this program are not able to get the other required approvals, then our request will be null and void. So I just wanted to make that comment to clarify the situation. But I think it's going to be a valuable program. When I was young, I didn't had access to an ROTC program, but I did have access to a very healthy Boy Scouts program that I think helped me immensely over my lifetime. So I'm hoping that the young people who we hope will participate in this going forward will learn a lot that will help them through the rest of their lives. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any further, Commissioner? Commissioner Deaton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's no secret that this is one of the resolutions that I have worked on, and I thank you, Chairman Smith and or Chairman Drake for giving me this opportunity. And then Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Gross, thank you for explaining this to our constituents. It's very important to know about the process. And so we worked on this to get this through, and probably in another half hour, the Brighton School Board will be voting on this. So as you see, a lot of the commissioners can't make the school board meetings as much as we'd like to because they're held on Monday nights. I would have liked to have been there to support the school board. We believe that's going to be passed, but there are checks and balances. We're just not going to write a check without it being thoroughly vetted. And so this is a great program. It's been around for about 100 years, and it's on Americanism and citizenship. And it should be noted that less than 1% of the students that enter this program actually go into the military. So I am a Navy veteran. It'd be great to have people go into the military, but that's not the reason for the program. This is for citizenship, Americanism, and leadership. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any further comment by Commissioner Helserman?
Yes, this is one district. This is not particularly a infrastructure as a bridge or whatever that's a physical, but as Commissioner Smith pointed out, it does build things more important. Let me just also address that every aspect of school is instilling values. And the question is not, does a school instill values or not? I think education by its very nature is instilling values. The question is, are they correct values? Are they values that will serve people well through their whole life and the whole of society? So yes, this is teaching values, and I think that's very important. I think that we have to realize this is a one-time infusion of money. It's rather to prime the pump, not to be and we're hoping, and I think it's with programs like this, if they're run well, they build themselves. And so Brighton doesn't have to have this program, and if they don't have the program, we won't give them the money. So I favor this, and I think it'd be good for our community, good for our county.
Thank you. Further comment? Commissioner Domas?
Thank you. Just a closing comment. I was in the ROTC, not in high school, but in college. And for many of the young men and women who joined these ROTC units, whether they were Air Force, Navy, Army, Coast Guard, I think they have a Coast Guard unit too. It was their first opportunity to become disciplined and to exercise patriotism and to get to know their own government. And though a small percentage of these young people go on to become military officers, they are certainly some of the best that we have to offer through any program at all, whether it was while in the service or before they got into the service. So I'm behind this 100%. Some of the finest people that I know and served with were graduates of ROTC programs. And it's just something I couldn't turn my back on. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. I share the recollection that was brought up by Commissioner Smith and voiced by Commissioner Gross and Commissioner Deaton and Commissioner Hauserman at this table, that it is contingent upon the Brighton School Board accepting, and it is contingent on the Navy accepting. Thank you. I'll close the discussion at this point. We need a roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're moving on to agenda item 2023-09-165. It's a resolution pledging the full faith and credit for payment of Orchard Park Intercounty Drain Bonds, Series 2023, brought to us by the Drain Commissioner. May I have a motion?
Smith. Support Helserman.
Thank you. It is moved by Smith, support by Helserman, and we proceed to the comment, question, analysis phase. Any further comment, question, analysis by any commissioner? Does anyone wish? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just
Commissioner
wanna,
Smith.
clarify in the second whereas, the interest rate, bearing an interest at a rate not to exceed 8%. And so what that does is it gives a ceiling. It was brought up in the call to the public that rates for strong muni bonds are in the 3.7 range. I can tell you that market has dried up substantially. Hardly any institution wants to buy these. So will we have to pay up? Yes. Will it be 8%? Probably not, but it may be over 4%. I hope it's not, right? We want the lowest rate possible. That's why we're, the idea is, we back it with the AAA bond rating and it gets the lower rate. That just sets a ceiling in the resolution though. But I would expect it to be, still a very favorable rate in general market terms as far as our psychological outlook. Is it going to be an 8% bond? No, I don't think so. But there is a very limited market, and it's a typical, market demand situation, right? So with very little demand, they tend to set the rate a little higher.
Thank you. Any further comment, analysis, question? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, I have concerns about pledging the full faith and credit of the county on any bond. One of the reasons, and I've done a little bit of research on this issue, and I concur with Commissioner Smith. The market for these type of bonds in general, the banks are a lot more, the investors are a lot more, they're scrutinizing a lot more because in my view, they're anticipating rocky economic times ahead. So they're trying, in my view, to conserve their cash. So from that standpoint, with the financial institutions having this high concern about, credit worthiness, financial worthiness, I'm wondering what they see that we don't. We're considering doing something that we don't necessarily have to do. Now, in the Finance Committee meeting, I asked the question, what options do we have? And I was told that this was the only option that we have, to put our full faith and credit in. That is not an appealing place to be in, backing us into a corner. I did some research over the weekend and found out that if we wanted to, and I'm not saying this makes financial sense or doesn't, we could infuse some of our own money into our drain revolving fund and then loan money out of the drain revolving fund, thereby keeping the interest for the county. I mean, that is an option. It is quite different than saying this is our only choice. Another bit of information that was shared in finance was that, in terms of issuing the bonds, we have to do it, otherwise the bonds aren't going to be purchased. I sent an email out over the weekend asking for clarification of that. And I think this really falls under the categories of we ought to vet this a little bit more. And I concur with the gentleman who spoke at Call to Public that it would be worth further investigation. Carrie Blanchett, who is a bond person that the county contracts with from PFM, had a short answer that I think merits more vetting, that yeah, you probably could sell the bonds, but they're going to be at a higher interest rate. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, that's the way these things go. So my follow-up question would be, well, how much higher interest rate? This isn't my money. This isn't the county's money. This is the taxpayers' money. This is every citizen in Livingston County. And so we're asking every citizen in Livingston County to back this. I want to know, what's the rate difference? And I want to know, let's say it's a 2 percentage point rate difference between having the full faith and credit of Livingston County and not having it. What would be wrong with saying, okay, we'll pass along 1% to those that are in the drain district, and everybody else who's backing it, they can have 1%. Put the money in towards something else in Livingston County. And so anyway, I am of the opinion that we ought to vet this thing a little bit further. Thank you.
There's somebody that can answer bond questions that you see on Zoom?
We do have Laura Bassett from Dickinson Wright on Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Recker. Laura, can you hear me?
I can, yes, I'm, there we go. Yes, I can. And there may be somebody from Benzinski and Company as well. Hi, Stephen. Yes, to answer some of the more financial related questions. So we are here.
First question is, if we give our full faith and credit, the hope is that the people in the drainage district get assessed, and then it's the hope that they send checks in to pay the assessment. And if it all goes smoothly for however long the bonds are, we pay nothing, correct?
Correct.
If it doesn't go so smoothly, and say 25% of the people in the district won't pay, they refuse to pay, how do we collect from them?
So that's so there are two parts to this. I mean, first of all, if there is a bond payment coming up, for example, and that bond payment, and there's not the special assessments sufficient to meet that bond payment, that is when the full faith and credit would kick in. The county then has recourse under the drain code to go back to the drain commissioner and say, this needs to be reassessed. So the county would be made whole no matter what. The people that are assessed, if there is a single or certain number of individual properties that don't pay, that goes through the same process that somebody who doesn't pay their taxes would go through. So it can be charged back, it can be reassessed to that property owner, and all other legally available methods to collect taxes would be available to collect the assessment from those property owners.
Commissioner Fiani.
So if I understand correctly, you just said that if somebody or a group of parcel owners did not pay, by a simple board resolution, we could enforce a full reassessment of the debt on the drain district?
No, the reassessment on the entire drain district comes into play if a bond payment, if there's not sufficient funds to make a bond payment and the county needs reimbursement for payment made under that full faith and credit pledge. The reassessment to individual property owners comes in as it would in any other unpaid taxes or tax foreclosure process to those or that property owner.
Right, right. But what I'm saying is, so if one or multiple parcel owners did not pay, by simple board resolution, we could reassess or have a reassessment. That way the county is made whole.
The county would be made whole, yes.
Further questions? Commissioner Nakagiri?
Yeah, sorry to go out of order, but it is my understanding that with regards to making the county whole, that it's the drain district that has the ability to, so let's say one person decides not to pay. It is the drain district, not the county board of commissioners. The drain district has the ability to reassess all other properties and raise their assessment to make up for the lost revenue for the person that didn't pay. That is what I was told last week. I also want to comment on what the lady said with respect to having the same rights as if they didn't pay their property tax. I do not believe that's a correct statement. If you don't pay your property tax, the county has the ability to foreclose.
Correct.
Is my understanding. We do not have the ability to foreclose. We have the ability to put a lien on the property, but foreclosure and putting a lien are different. And I think that this is further evidence that we need to take a little pause here. I look at this as being asked to put my blessing on behalf of Livingston County citizens on this deal. And I want to know all the dimensions of the deal. If I'm, and I don't think I know, and I don't think that, I wonder if all the commissioners here know. And anyway, that's my, thank you.
Sure. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. A couple thoughts come to mind. One is the practical application for non-payment. Much like taxes or an HOA assessment, a drainage assessment simply gets paid when the property transfers, one way or another. So in the highly unlikely event that people say, nope, I'm not going to pay it, eventually they get foreclosed on because they're probably not paying their taxes or not paying their HOAs or whatever else they owe. Right? So they wind up selling the property. The drainage assessment gets paid out of the net proceeds of the sale. And it gets paid right with the taxes and any mortgage. And so that's the practical side of it. To say that we are pledging the taxpayers, I think, is a real reach. What we're really doing is pledging our balance sheet. And we as a county have probably the strongest balance sheet in the state. We have little or no debt. We have little or no debt per taxpayer. And, this is such a common practice for strong counties to support other municipalities, drainage districts, et cetera. And just because it hasn't come before, I'm sure Chairman Domas has seen this before, but this is such a common practice statewide to use the strength of the county's balance sheet, regardless of the county, to lower the cost for the municipality. It's supporting your own community, it's supporting the drainage districts, et cetera. I think it's a reach to say it's on the taxpayers. It really, all you're doing is pledging the strength of a balance sheet that those that have served before us have done such a great job of maintaining the strength of the county.
Thank you. Any other?
I have a
Commissioner
question.
Hauserman?
Okay. Have there been times when, instead of bonding the issue, there's been a direct loan from the county? It seems to me like we've done that before, that we've, instead of putting it out to bonds, that the county is the loaner. and receives the interest. Is that, how common is that in this type of situation?
In this type of situation, I would characterize it as very uncommon. We've done it with interim financing of interim expenses on petitions prior to the final computation of cost being completed and prior to bids being obtained. Normally, it's been during the design and easement acquisition process that we've done internal loaning. The one exception I can think of to that rule was there was a resolution for a drain in Iosco Township a few years ago where we had a balance in our equipment revolving fund, and we passed a resolution to loan money from the equipment revolving fund at that point in time. Right now, the balances in our internal funds are insufficient to handle any kind of loan that's even probably a fraction of this magnitude.
Right, but that is internally with the Drain Commission, and the Drain Commission is not able to do that with this particular one. But I'm talking about the, you know, the treasurer, and I'm not exactly sure who writes these loans that come out of the treasury, or if that's a possibility. It seems to me that when we go to buy the bonds, if the rate is above a certain.
Did you lose them, Laura?
I did.
So did I. Okay.
Yep, I lost them too.
Okay.
Tax revolving.
Delinquent tax? Is that what we use for the, even though it was a drain project?
Yes. I think
Okay. So we did,
So that's where we had the money.
it was, I believe it was less than $1 million in terms of the project. What's interesting about this project is even though it's slated for a total of roughly 3.2 million, with all the different breakdowns, we've already allotted 700,000 from ARPA funds back in May. Tyrone Township looks to be allotted 225,000 for it. And there's a couple other breakdowns. So ultimately, it seems like the outstanding amount would be 360,000, which I think, and my point is, I think it'd be doable if that were the route the board wished to go.
It just seems to me that we should, especially if bonding rates are going to be so high, that we need to think, if it's possible, we need to think of a different route. And then the county receives the interest too. That's the other, that's the other benefit to the county if we fund it ourselves. So it seems to me like we should set some sort of limits and say, if it's possible, we should do it. And especially if the bond interest rates are, go over 5% or whatever, that we should have a limit, say, let's try to do it ourselves. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Could our two bond counsel on Zoom answer the question of whether we can set a high water mark and then not do the bonds and try to do a loan ourselves?
So let me take the first and, so the difference between this particular, proposed transaction and some of the others that may come, you may be familiar with or may come before this board is that this is an inter-county drain, and so it involves two counties. I mean, the short answer is yes, the county can look into other options for financing a Livingston County drain project itself. However, in this case, there are two counties that are involved in this one project. Both of the counties, in order to follow through with a bond financing, both of the counties have to agree to both pledge their credit, and therefore you see in the resolution that, that the Livingston County resolution is effective only if the Genesee County resolution is, and vice versa, because that would take care of part of the project, but not the entire project, if one were to do something different or adopt a different type of resolution. So there are some there are some challenges for this one that may not exist for one that is for a drain that exists solely within Livingston County.
Can we set a high water mark that we don't want to go over, say 5%?
The same would have to then if my point being, we'd have to be able to set that same maximum for Genesee County as well. So I'm going to turn that question over to the Drainage District's financial advisor as to whether this, Genesee County is expected to take up their resolution this Wednesday. So if something, were to change, it would have to be able to apply to both and to the entire bond issue.
Thank you. And your response then is?
So,
yes.
Well, good evening. I'm Stephen Haydock. I'm with Benzinski and Company, financial advisors. Is the question that you're looking for the interest rate that you expect to see on this bond issue, or just setting the high water mark where you would abandon it?
I think the high water mark, pretend maybe, let's say for argument's sake, 5%. We don't want to go over, and then we'd abandon.
Well, I think it goes back to the mechanics of the inter-county drain, the bond issue here with Genesee County that Laura was talking about. But for what it's worth, I would say in today's market, I would expect this bond issue to sell under 4.5%. Hopefully, certainly under 5% by the time it goes to market. But I can't guarantee anything because the market moves and I can't predict it. But that's what I would expect today.
And Genesee County would also have to agree to some kind of high water mark.
It would have to be the same. Agree. Correct. Yes.
And perhaps they would know on Wednesday what we did tonight. Perhaps.
Yeah. Well, and again, relaying that is not so much of the issue. It's again whether the Drainage District's financial advisor would be comfortable putting a high water mark other than what's already in the resolution that would apply to the entire bond issue, to both counties' resolutions. And
I will say, if you do that and you go competitively and you bring it to market and you just reject it because it's above the high water mark that you set, you run the risk of not getting any bids from anyone when you go back to market. I mean, these investors aren't going to want to put their time and effort into preparing bids, setting them out, and then having them be rejected, even when it's a market rate of interest. They're not going to want to come back and bid again later.
Okay, that's good analysis. Thank you. I have a question. What document gets filed with the Register of Deeds if there is a reassessment when, let's say, 25% of the lot owners do not pay?
That's that fall. I would love to be able to answer that, but that's going to fall to a local attorney that comes in to help with the tax process or the assessment process.
Thank you. Rich McNulty, are you hearing this? Thank you. The notion is that if some of the property owners do not pay a percentage, like say 25%, the bond people think that either the drain,
no, the Board of Commissioners,
the Board of Commissioners can ask for a reassessment. And in my brain, that means we send them another bill. And I'm wondering if somehow that gets put on their property documents at the Register of Deeds.
I don't know the answer as to how it's recorded. The fact is that when you reassess, it becomes an assessment and that is filed going forward to the, I've never seen it reassessed in any project that I've ever done where it's come to that, because normally, as Commissioner Smith stated, it becomes a lien on the property and it eventually gets paid. The question is really just a short-term versus long-term issue. But if you needed or wanted to reassess it, what you're doing is you're splitting up the 100% amongst the additional people. It goes through the normal process and then it gets put on their taxes and they pay it.
So seems as though there might be two ways it gets paid if it's on their Register of Deeds property chain of title. First would be, we would wait for a transfer or sale sometime in the future. And it's also been suggested that we could foreclose and sell the same as a tax lien. Do we have both those possibilities or one?
I don't know. Honestly, I do not have, as I've spoken to, I do not have the experience as to whether there's foreclosure. I know it becomes a lien on the property. I don't know whether it becomes a foreclosable lien.
If I may.
Mr. Recker, Shirley, go ahead.
We've been involved in one delinquent assessment in the time that I worked for Brian since April of 1997. In this particular case, it was a drain in Genoa Township called the Grand Beach Drain. And there's a specific section in the drain code that directs how the overage or the expenses that we can't make the payment for are dealt with. And you reassess the district. You reassess the district as a whole, or if it doesn't involve the sale of individual parcels, is what I should say. So there wasn't any involvement in the Register of Deeds at the time that we had the one delinquent assessment that I'm aware of, which was probably would have been around 2009, 2010 for the Grand Beach Drain. Also at this hearing for this particular drain, we had 4 landowners show up out of the 67 properties or 68 properties. Nobody reserved their right to protest. We spoke with the 3 highest taxed parcels before the meeting. One of them actually showed up at the day of the meeting. So there wasn't, despite the amount of the tax in some of the areas where there was the worst flooding, there was not, nobody went to the probate court to reserve their right to protest their special assessment.
And that's a 20-year bond?
Yes, this would be for a 20-year bond.
And I'm hearing so far, we don't have an answer to the question of whether we actually can foreclose and sell faster than just waiting for a transfer eventually. Okay, other questions? Commissioner Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've done a little bit of quick and dirty calculation here. And
Excuse me, Commissioner Gross, can you check to see if your mic's on, please?
all right, thank you. I apologize. I've done a little quick and dirty calculation here, and by my calculations, the 68 parcel owners would be looking at, in addition to their tax bills, of approximately $300 a year, possibly a little bit less than that. And at our meeting last week, we had one of the property owners here, and he's had this problem with his basement flooding for 7 years. And I would hate to think that we're going to be kicking the can down the road, arguing about a few dollars here and there. The gentleman that I spoke to said that he wants to get this drain in so that his basement doesn't flood. And he pretty much said he didn't care what it cost. He wants it done. So, we're quibbling over bond rates and so forth. I trust our treasurer to work and get us the most favorable rate possible. And I think we should get on with this. Thank you.
Certainly. Any further comment, analysis? Commissioner Hausman.
I think the payment of this lien upon the property, in my mind, that's one of the smallest things we have to worry about of actually happening. I think people look at these assessments as a tax, and in their mind, if they don't pay that whole amount, they're thinking they're going to be foreclosed upon. So I really do not, in that the money that's going to pay this bond comes from a bill that they get every year or twice a year, whatever it is. And the expectation is that they pay. Unless there's a catastrophic failure of the economy, I think we don't have anything to worry about. And if there's a catastrophic failure of the economy, that's going to be one of our smallest concerns, you know.
Thank you. With that, if there's no further comment, question, analysis, Commissioner Nakagiri.
I would move to postpone the decision on this to the next full board meeting.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Nakagiri to postpone the drain bond resolution. Is there a second? The chair will second. It'll be a voice vote to determine the postpone unless there's discussion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
I would ask for a roll call vote.
Within your right, I believe. Commissioner Fiani.
Yeah, pertaining to the discussion, I can see a reasoning for postponing it. I felt that, first off, I'm fully supportive of this project. In fact, I think the board is, because we pledged $700,000 of ARPA funds towards it. But my questions were not fully answered by our counsel and consultants. And I do want to take the opportunity to explore this further. I do disagree with Commissioner Smith's perspective that we're not pledging the people's tax dollars. We are in fact pledging their tax dollars. We use the people's money for everything we do here. We don't have a printing press and just run it off in the back room. And therefore, I don't see any issue with taking a little extra due diligence to further research this before we put up $3.2 million of the county's taxpayers' money.
Commissioner Gross.
I beg to differ with my colleague. The county's not putting out 3.2 million.
Well, 1.6.
Actually, we're looking at 360,000.
Well, if it was 360,000, then we would probably go a different route because we proposed that. But what came back to us was until the cash is on hand, in hand, we have to pledge our half, which is 1.6. Has anything changed since then in terms of what we have to pledge?
Not since last week's meeting. The pledge is a not to exceed based on the current cost and the split of the project, 50% Livingston, 50% Genesee. So as prepays come in, the amount of that pledge will be reduced. Just at this time, we don't have those prepays in.
I would support a postponement if it wasn't that for the fact that we have Genesee County and us. If it was only our county, we would have, a postponement would be good. I you know, I don't picture Genesee County being in the same boat that we are, that they'll be able to float their own part of this deal without a bond. So that's, you know, yes, we can get more information, but will Genesee would have to do the same thing in order for it to have any legs. So I think we should go ahead. So I'm not for postponing.
As a point of procedure, I would ask the movant for the postponement, Commissioner Nakagiri, to tell me whether this is a postponement until the next BOC, until a date certain, or a date indefinite.
To the next meeting, the next Board of Commissioner meeting.
A 2-week, essentially a 2-week postponement. Thank you for that clarification. Understood? Okay.
I have a
Good
motion to
record.
postpone to the next full board meeting.
The next full, okay.
That was the motion that I wrote down, and that was moved by Commissioner Nakagiri, supported by Commissioner Drick.
And that's till the next full board meeting.
Right.
If it's 3,
2
4,
weeks.
5, whatever weeks it is.
I think Commissioner Gross said it.
Yes.
We currently have a meeting scheduled for October 2nd.
So it would be the 10th, October 10th.
All right.
It's answered. Jay, you got your answer? Okay. Any further comment or question? And I believe it was a requested roll call vote, and I have the ability to agree. Please do a roll call on the postponement. until the
Commissioner
next full-
Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick.
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
No.
Commissioner Fiani.
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
No.
Commissioner Helserman.
No.
Commissioner Domas.
No.
And Commissioner Sample.
Yes.
Motion carries. Motion to postpone carries.
And as a motion to postpone, then we don't have the roll call vote on the meat of the resolution. We can go to the next res.
That is correct.
That's how I understand it too. Thank you. I want to make sure our record is complete. C, 2023-09-166. It's a resolution authorizing fiscal year 2024 to 2028 cooperative reimbursement grant agreement between Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and Livingston County Prosecutors Family Support Division. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Support Deaton.
Moved by Commissioner Fiani, support by Commissioner Deaton. Questions, analysis, objections, affirmations by the board. Am I hearing any? In that case, it's a roll call vote. I close the discussion and move to a roll call, please.
Commissioner Fiani.
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample.
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick.
Yes,
Commissioner Deaton.
Yes.
And Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. We're on to 2023-09-167. It's a resolution authorizing the build out of the west wall of 911 Central Dispatch and the purchase and installation and maintenance contract of a state-of-the-art video wall system.
Move, Helserman.
Thank you.
Support Deaton.
Moved by Commissioner Helserman, support by Commissioner Deaton. Questions, analysis, comment, pros, cons? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, I had voted in support of this in committee, in the Public Safety and Infrastructure Committee. Having done more research, I'm going to change my vote to no this evening. The reason why is the video wall that's under consideration, if you take out the cost of the, extending the wall itself, but just the video screen, if you will, is $279,000. we can get the same square footage of screen coverage, which in fact, we are increasing the screen coverage from what we have today. But we can get the same square footage by purchasing 10 86-inch TVs, for lack of a better term, actually Best Buy had them on sale for $1,000 a piece. So you can get 10 of them for $10,000 versus, and get the same square footage of screen coverage as we can get, as we're anticipating getting with the video wall. And I think coupled with that, going through the budget presentation for 911 last week, we're projecting for next year an imbalance of revenue and expenses, which would be $1 million unfavorable. I think we need to be very cautious about making this expenditure, especially when there's a more cost-effective solution that could be implemented. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comment, question, analysis? Commissioner Deaton.
Yes, I echo Commissioner Nakagiri's comments, and also to add one, I was also voted yes for this, but will change my vote as well due to talking to some of the other departments, and they weren't included in the conversation. So that's it, sir.
Understood. Any further comment, question? Commissioner Fiani.
Did you want, actually, did you just raise your hand? Did you want to speak?
I will once.
Go ahead. I didn't want to.
I'll give you a chance. I'll get you. Go ahead. Commissioner Fiani.
Yes. So I would like to reevaluate this. I'm very supportive of it. I think it's a tool that we should have, and I fully support it. I do think that there may be a potential for a less expensive route to go. With that being said, I'm enthusiastic to try and bring together our operations department, our technology department, and our 911 department to see if there is potential for a less expensive route. With that being said, I'm not going to make the motion now, but perhaps we could explore postponing this to evaluate if there is a less expensive route.
Further comment, question, analysis, pros and cons. Question by me.
Yes, sir.
For the $279,000 screen, what's its useful life?
Over a decade.
12 years.
12.
And is there a factory warranty, not the maintenance contract we buy, but what's the factory warranty?
The factory warranty itself is 5 years, and then the pickup from Toshiba.
And then the maintenance contract would start after 5 years?
The maintenance contract would start in 2024, in January of 2024.
Help me out. What would the maintenance contract cover that the warranty would not?
That would be more of a software. We've got hardware, and then we've got the software part of this.
So is the hardware warranty the 5 year and the soft year maintenance contract the quick right out of the gate?
Yes, sir.
I get it. Thank you. Have those questions spawned any analysis or questions any commissioner wants to make any further? Commissioner Hausman.
Whenever you have a big electronic thing, you have a lot of heat generated. Was the heat generated part of your consideration with going with this? It's more of a modular system. Did you do any analysis with other things that might generate more heat?
Well, LEDs don't generate a lot of heat. The LCDs do. So they're the new and improved where there's not. But the system is also built where there's air that will surround it also.
So it's built out from the wall so that
Yes, sir.
it can cool on both sides.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now it's your turn if you want to explore any other position or argument that you need to make that we should be aware of. How's that?
Well, one, the fact that we could put 10 televisions up, that's not true. It won't work. You can't, by the way it's built, there's that soffit that's above that actually houses the heating duct. So you can't go from the top and just put TVs up there. Two, we found that, yes, one of our 84-inch is already burned out less than 4 years after being purchased. What you're talking about is older technology, and it's not the technology that's needed because you have your one input output. Yes, is it expensive? Yes, it is. Is it the cheapest? No, because cheap isn't always the best route to take, especially when you're talking technology and public safety. Commissioner Deaton, you mentioned all departments were not involved in this. Yes, we started out with the IT department who took us to Detroit to see a wall. And we loved what we saw, but we also took it upon ourselves to continue to do research. And what we found was that that wasn't what we needed. It wasn't going to be a long-term thing. So we started to branch out and we started to look for other means by which to put up the wall, because we know this is our one shot. This is not something that we're gonna put up tomorrow and it's gonna, we're gonna break. We're putting something up that will last. Again, is it the most expensive? Absolutely not. Is it at the bottom? No, it's in the middle. And with technology, as we well know, it just continues. It continues to grow. So we picked something that will grow with that technology, that will last for that time. Yes, we could go to Best Buy and buy TV, not the way that you would want them. No, they will not fit in a neat little, I don't even think the wall space would actually hold for it, since we got 6. And the reason there's only 6 is because we run out of wall real estate for it. We put a lot of research into this, a lot of effort into this. We don't just arbitrarily, well, 911, we don't really spend money. Everything we do is about this county. It's about public safety. It's not just something that we want to, I'm not sure what you would figure we would use, but just keep that factor in mind. It's going to get even more expensive for what we are looking for. Technology increases in our world, 6 months new, 6 months old. It just depends on what that technology is. We have been in contact with the facilities department. We do keep the departments apprised of what we're doing, but if I'm going to be honest, no, I don't go asking. I tell you, I give you this is what we want to do, and I'll keep you informed, but no, everybody's got their own work to do. It's my responsibility that we do research. It's no one else's, it's mine, and do my due diligence and not pawn it off on another department. So that's something that 911 does.
I'm not cutting you off. If you want to talk some more, that's fine.
Director, I have a question.
No, sir.
What is the timeline? If we move forward on this, what is the timeline to get it installed?
It would be installed prior to, we said the end of the year, December 30th, but really it's just a matter of ordering the LCDs. Home Depot is the contractor for it. And so we're going to be out of our center second week of October for some computer upgrades. So the build out of the wall would be done at that time because the dispatchers won't be there. There's not disturbing the citizens that call. It's just a clear room in which to work. the LCD wall, the LED wall, the video wall that we want. That's just depending on how fast we can get the product in.
Thank you.
Any further comment, question, analysis? Commissioner Sample?
Yeah, I think I share the same opinion of Commissioner Fiani about doing a little bit more due diligence and postponing this. Just like to share that.
Commissioner Fiani?
For the costs associated with this project and the equipment as well, it's my understanding that these are all fixed costs. For example, they're not quotes where right now they're X amount and then they might requote it in 2 or 3 weeks.
No, sir, these are fixed costs. And may I ask a question in regards
Certainly.
to
Go ahead.
postponing it for more analysis? One, who's gonna do the further analysis, and how long are we wanting this?
Commissioner Fiani, go ahead.
So from my perspective, I would like to tie in our Director of IT and our Director of Operations. And then in terms of a timeline perspective, it would be certainly no later than the October 23rd meeting. But I'm more than happy if it seems like a realistic timeline, the October 10th full board of commissioner meeting.
That's fine, and just so you know, I'd already spoken with, I did not speak with Director Toby, but with his infrastructure manager of getting together and further discussing this as we had before in regards to this.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, in my notes, I have that the video wall that's being proposed is, I converted it to inches, 397 inches wide by 84 inches tall. And if we lined up 86-inch TVs, instead of being 397 inches, it would be 379 inches. And the overall height would be, instead of 84 inches, 83 inches. So the total square footage is, within 2 square feet of, they're equal. And so, Director, when you say the TVs won't fit, but yet the video wall will, I'm perplexed. Can you help me out there?
Yes, because what you're talking about with the TVs that you buy, they are in a bezel. So there's some thickness to that. So they're not going to be lined up flat together as a wall would be. They would be what we currently have on the wall, which are 6 TVs spaced out. We are looking for an actual wall that we can view in one place, one spot, all that we have going on in one place. I would also say, I don't want to do tacky. A lot of effort was put in that building. It is a beautiful building. I didn't put that building together, but I'm charged with maintaining it. And that's exactly what I want to do. And I won't do anything that's going to take away from it. Because again, cheap isn't always the best route to go. And for what we want, what we've seen, what our vision, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit that.
You have TVs there now. Is that tacky?
Yes, they are actually, to be quite honest with you, those monitors are. I wasn't born here, meaning I've worked elsewhere. I worked many departments, so I know what technology looks like. I know what I've seen. What I'm speaking of, I've seen bigger, I've seen better. But the way it's built, I didn't build that wall. I didn't build it. It's there, and to make what we want fit, to be able to view multiple views on it will require more than what I think that maybe what you know, a wall to be. So I really just wish you would just really think about what it is that we're asking for. I'm asking for something that is within the budget. I'm asking for something that was already approved within the budget to receive. The cost of it has gone up because we realized that what we wanted wasn't good, wasn't going to last, was at the bottom of the barrel. We have visited multiple centers. We went to Kettering University also that has what we're looking for. Macomb County, their entire dispatch center. I mean, it's where we're going at in our profession. It's nothing, many other centers, no place they're not trying to get to themselves.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, go ahead. Commissioner Helserman.
As I see, the video wall has an advantage that you can make the screen any size that you wish. If you have a series of televisions, you are, I don't know what the technology is to get two screens to be continuous. I don't know. But this, you could, if you had something that you needed to have one picture on the whole wall, you could do that. Or you could, do it in thirds, or you could do it in sixths. There are many different ways. And then part of it is the software behind it. Because what she's asking for is a software that can do that. That you don't just have 8 monitors, that are doing 8 separate things. You have one monitor that can do many things that could be adjusted in many different ways. I'm fully in favor of this. I think that for us to postpone is not the wisest thing for us to do. I don't know if we have 2 more weeks or 4 more weeks, will we be collectively wiser? The question is, I think we're as wise as we're going to be in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And I just think we should go ahead and vote, on it. That's what I think.
Call the question.
You defer to?
I will defer.
Thank you. And then I'll get back to you. Go ahead, Keisha.
The last thing I'd like to say on this is important to public safety as a whole. You hired me to do a job. You hired me to make wise decisions, and I am doing that. And to be quite honest, it's a little deflating that you were saying it's difficult for you to make a decision, and that's based on you need to ask other people if this is what we should do. I have been in touch with the departments that need to know, to include IT. I have spoken with Director Eggleston and had him over, and he's given me some advice on the build out of the wall. And he's had others to come in, contractors also. So I feel like I've done my due diligence in what I'm supposed to do. And I feel like there's not a lot of trust and faith there. But You are the Board of Commissioners and it is your right. And whatever decision that you make, of course, I will abide by it. I'll be back tomorrow.
Got it. There's been a motion, statement, call to question. I don't think it's debatable. I think we go to the roll call.
Need a
vote.
second.
Oh, it needs a second.
And you need
Was there,
2/3.
I'm sorry, I did not catch that. Was that Commissioner Smith?
It was.
Yes. Now we're looking for a second.
Second.
It's been, and
You need
Clerk
2/3.
Hundley, Commissioner Nakagiri is saying that it's a 2/3 vote to pass at this point.
To call the question is,
Call the
cut off
question.
debate requires 2/3.
I can confirm that.
I think that's confirmed then. So to cut off the debate, we would have to have a 2/3 vote.
Are you ready for a roll call on that?
Roll call on cutting off the debate. Yes, please.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
No.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
No.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
No.
Commissioner Drick,
No.
Commissioner Deaton.
No.
Motion to call the question fails.
So we're continuing in discussion. Any further comment or discussion?
Motion to postpone the resolution until October 10th, 2023.
Second.
October 10 was the date.
Yes, October 10th.
Thank you. Moved by Fiani, seconded by Commissioner Sample to postpone until 10/10. I want to make sure I'm making sure you're catching up.
Yes, thank
with,
you. I'm ready.
Secretary minutes. Old habit from being in court. Okay,
Would you like a roll call on that as well?
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
No.
Commissioner Helserman,
No.
Commissioner Domas,
No.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Nope.
Motion to postpone carries.
We're on to resolution 2023-09-168. It's a resolution authorizing the amendment of resolution 2023-05-088, parentheses, purchase of Celebrate Premium, close parentheses, and distribution of American Rescue Act ARPA funding, brought to us by the sheriff. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Fiani,
Support Deaton.
support by Deaton. Any questions? Statements, pros, cons?
My question is, do we know enough about this to not postpone? Are we more in tune with this than we are with the last one? You know, it just seems to me that we're not being very even in how we're handling things. Seems to me like we have enough time to have all these questions answered. I personally know more about the last one than I do about this one. If you know more about this one than you did the last one, you should vote yes. Otherwise, we should ask for a postponement.
Any other comment, analysis? Commissioner Fiani.
I can speak to Commissioner Helserman's question and confirm that, yes, I do know more about this than the previous two resolutions, mostly because the parties involved or related to it were able to answer my questions fully and completely prior to this meeting.
Any further questions, comment, pros or cons? I'll proceed to close that section and we'll move into roll call vote.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're on to sub F under paragraph 11. And it's number 2023-09-169. It's a resolution authorizing funding for professional services for the Livingston County Public Safety Educational Municipal Open Access Fiber Project and distribution of American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding, brought to us by Information Technology. May I get him? Thank you. Commissioner Gross has moved it and a
Motion to
second,
approve the resolution as presented.
and I'll take Commissioner Fiani as support.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the resolution as opposed to a motion to discuss.
Technically, they are different motions. Is there a second?
I support that.
Which
Commissioner Fiani's.
by Domas? Any support for Commissioner Gross's motion to discuss? Seeing none, that dies. And Commissioner Fiani, we will motion with his own motion and a second by Domas to approve. Now we go into discussion, pros and cons, analysis, questions, statements.
I just asked the same question on this. Are we fully informed about this? So we don't have to postpone.
Thank you, Commissioner Fiani.
I can speak to Commissioner Hausman's question. Yes, I'm fully informed about this. I had an opportunity to speak with Director Toby and our Chief Financial Officer, and they were able to fully answer all questions I had before the start of the meeting.
Thank you. Any further questions, comment, analysis, pros or cons?
Just one question.
Certainly, Commissioner
Yeah.
Hausman, you have the floor.
Was the 911 director not able to answer your questions?
In reference to that, I actually reached out to Director Toby, and I am not comfortable disclosing what he relayed to me because it was a private conversation, and I would be open to him discussing it, but my questions were not answered during that conversation. And with it being such a large expense of almost $500,000 out of a fund that is losing fund balance over the years, which to no fault of our current director, she's done a fantastic job and has done amazing work here. But it's the reality of the situation with a plateauing funding source that we need to be very prudent in our decision. So if we're gonna spend $500,000, I wanna make sure every person in the county who may be able to speak to this is able to answer every question I have.
So you are one, I don't know.
You yield the floor now?
Yes.
Keep on talking if you want. It's
No,
okay.
I'm fine. I
I don't want to cut you off.
it just seems like we should be even in our dealing, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nakagiri, you've had.
Yeah,
one.
this is just a point of clarification. I voted in support of the postponement because I've already made up my mind. Yeah, I don't need more time, but I heard a couple of my colleagues say that they would like to do more investigation, and I defer to their desire to do more investigation, and that's why I supported it. With respect to this resolution on the floor, I've vetted it and I'm comfortable voting for it, and so, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment, question? Commissioner Fiani, you have the floor.
I want to share my disappointment that there's a allegation of me being either biased or having some type of disproportionate stance on these issues this evening.
Point of order.
Commissioner Smith, go ahead.
Should we not be addressing the discussion of the motion at hand?
Thank you. I was ready to shut off any further discussion about other resolutions. We're going to stick to the one ending 169. with that caveat, the chair recognizes Commissioner Fiani.
I'm disappointed that it was raised and alleged that my position on the current resolution on the table is different than my position on other resolutions this evening.
Understood. Beyond emotion, does anybody have substance that they'd like to talk about on number 169? Commissioner Sample.
Could you just give us a little history on where these funds are arising from?
Yes. Thank you, commissioners. And this basically originates out of the December resolution number 2022-12-192 and 2022-12.204. There was a discrepancy between the two resolutions. The 192 resolution had a higher dollar value than the 204 resolution. And this, in working with fiscal services, is to bring those two into alignment.
Good. Yep. Any answers? Any further? Last call. Discussion is now closed. We'll go to a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Welcome. We're at 11G on your agenda. It's 2023-09-170. It's a resolution authorizing the county clerk to apply for and accept fiscal year 2024 early voting grant. May I get a motion to approve?
So Deaton.
Second, Sample.
Moved by Commissioner Deaton, seconded by Commissioner Sample. Any questions, comments, analysis, pros and cons? Our clerk is here to, ready to roll.
Could I invite Joe Bridgman to sit in the
Absolutely.
middle? If it's okay, commissioners, I'll just stay here so that.
Absolutely, yes.
If
Joe?
that's okay with you. So I do have Joe here tonight to assist with answering any questions, but
Have a seat, clear off all the blood and debris from other things, and we'll proceed.
I think I'll stay in the safe seat and let him have the hot seat. But no, I do, first, I'd like to start with thanking Commissioner Chair Domas and Commissioner Gross allowing us to come straight to the full board. So this is the first time that this resolution is being vetted. So I'm happy to answer questions, but basically the state of Michigan, when they adopted the recent budget, allocated $30 million out of the fiscal year 2024 budget to be allocated through the counties for implementing early voting. And we are responsible at the county level for submitting the application on behalf of all of the jurisdictions within the county. Part of the language that was included with the adoption of this budget was that it was to incentivize jurisdictions to work with the county for county agreements for implementing early voting. In Livingston County, most of our jurisdictions have decided that they're going to run early voting as a single jurisdiction. So under the laws that are being adopted, approved by the governor, but they won't take effect until 91 days after the legislature ends their session, there are 3 ways early voting can be implemented. Jurisdictions can go alone. Jurisdictions can enter municipal agreements. For example, in Livingston County, we do know that Unadilla will be joining with Putnam Township for Putnam will conduct Unadilla's early voting. And there is a third option of the county participating with early voting. It's really going to vary by county across Michigan. And in Livingston County, high majority of our local clerks have decided single jurisdiction or municipal agreements is the way to go. This decision You know, we are the first decentralized state. So we run elections at the local level with the city and township clerks. We're the first decentralized state to implement early voting nationwide. So we don't have data to make these decisions. So as we move forward, what we do in 2024 to implement, we may do something different. When we get the data from 2024 and we see cost, we see how the voters embrace this, we can reevaluate this. This is a long-term structural change, and I respect the decisions of our local clerks, and the county clerk's office stands here to support them. So our request today is to be able to submit the application, the grant application, to the state of Michigan Bureau of Elections on behalf of our local jurisdictions. I don't anticipate that we're going to be granted or awarded what we're asking for. I think it will be, we will be awarded some grants to this or some of the money through this grant application, but not the full amount that we're asking. Time is critical because additional equipment and items will be needed for the presidential primary election. And if you read through the grant, one of the things that you'll notice is this is funding for implementing for the August in November 2024 early voting. And the reason the presidential primary wasn't included is the state automatically will reimburse the locals and the county for all expenses relating to the presidential primary. So when I bring my budget request forward Wednesday afternoon, you will see where we have built in the revenue for the February reimbursement from the state and our anticipated 24 revenues. And we also built in the expenditures. So we are requesting the permission to apply for and to accept any grant funding the state may award through this request. And we're happy to answer any questions.
And we have an extension. It isn't September 8th anymore. It's really October
Correct.
2.
It's October 2nd. That is correct. And we did send this over to legal counsel, and Tim Perrone has already signed off as to form. So if approved by the board, we will be able to submit this grant application then tomorrow.
Any questions, analysis, pros or cons, comments?
So is.
Commissioner Hausman.
So this is to request it and accept it? Does the board want to make that a separate item? That's my question.
There may be a delay. It's just a matter of the timing. So it was recommended that we do a request to apply and to accept due to the timing of this matter. And it's so that the local clerks would get their funding possibly in time for the presidential primary.
Because of the time.
Correct.
That's the reason I put them
Correct.
together. I'm satisfied with that. Thank you.
Okay.
Any further comment or question? Clerk Hundley, on page 48, it appears that we're asking for 590,326 and change goes to the 18 that you designated. So am I correct in believing that 264 would get to you?
I'll refer
I believe
to
it's page
Joe
48.
of the board packet.
Yes, board packet.
It will be your spreadsheet, Joe.
Oh, is it the spreadsheet?
Mhm.
I had to print the spreadsheet a little bit bigger because I couldn't see it as well. So on the page, it should be 596.54.40, right?
Seems like the total.
Correct.
And it seems like that what goes to the 18 is a 326 number.
So that number, that 326,509, is what we did is we sent out a survey to all of our local jurisdictions to ask them what equipment they would need, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the funding issues that happened and the difference that you see there is the staffing portion. So most of the locals that sent back their survey only looked at one election. So I had to double that in that staffing support. So that's why the difference. So the actual funding they were requesting is on the spreadsheet from their surveys that they had. And then when I put the formulas in the spreadsheet, meaning that the support staff was for August and November, which doubled what they were requesting in most cases. So for this, the grant that we want to request from the state is including both elections instead of just one election for the election inspectors to work.
I was trying to do the math to figure out what the net to Clerk Hundley.
There will be no net to,
Nothing.
we are not conducting early voting at the county level. The county, I anticipate 0 out of this. We will strictly be a flow through to the local jurisdictions who are conducting the early voting, correct?
That's the answer.
Correct.
I understand it. Thank you. And on one page, it seemed like our 3 villages, Fowlerville, Pinckney, Heartland, did not seem to be included.
Villages do not conduct elections. Those are conducted by the townships within which they're located. So Putnam Township conducts the elections on behalf of the village of Pinckney, and the same thing, Handy Township for the village of Fowlerville.
Okay, got it. They just don't do elections.
Correct.
No cigar for them.
They're probably happy.
Have those questions or analysis spawned any further comment or need to speak or ask questions for other commissioners? Seeing none, we'll close that portion. And as with every resolution tonight, may I have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
and Commissioner Drick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're on to 11H. It's numbered 2023-09-171. It's a resolution authorizing the renovation of the Fowlerville EMS substation brought to us by the emergency. I don't think it's emergency. No, the substation is called the Emergency Medical Center. Director Feldposh, if you could come forward.
Motion to approve the resolution as
Support,
presented.
Helserman.
Very good. Motion by Fiani, support by Helserman. Any questions, analysis, pros and cons that the commissioners wish to direct? Seeing none, I'll close that portion and ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes,
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. We're on to item number 12, accounts payable reports. 12A reads claims dated September 25, 2023, and 12B reads payables dated September 1 through September 15, 2023.
Move them, please.
Commissioner Domas has moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Nakagiri seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll close that. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-0 is the count by this commissioner. We're on to number 13 on the agenda. Item 13 is call to the public. It's a 2-minute opportunity. And have you cards?
I do have
Thank
several
you.
cards. Ben Tassich from Genoa Township. He'll be followed by Roger Deaton.
Good evening. My name is Ben Tassich. I live in Genoa Township, and there's about approximately 10 minutes left before Monday Night Football. so I'm going to make it very short and quick. I'm here on behalf of Livingston County Transportation Coalition. I understand that you're presently working on a new budget for 2024. A daunting responsibility, and I wish you all the best in working on that budget. It's not I don't envy you one iota on this. Good luck. I'd like to speak very quickly regarding public transportation. And back in 2019, the Livingston County Transportation Department put together a master plan. You're all familiar with that master plan. You were accepted it in 2019, and this is year 5 now that we're working on this master plan. I do realize that COVID had a lot to do regarding this master plan and why it's not on target the way that we were hoping it would be. But one of the things is I look at on page 22. On page 22 is the implementation and the action plan. And there are about 13 different areas that the master plan talks about how to grow public transportation in our county. And one of them, of course, is weekend services, expand weekend services. Well, as you know full well, Saturdays and Sundays are very difficult to get a ride, especially on a Sunday. And the timetable for that expansion was back in year 1 and 2. That was back in 2019 and 2020. We're now 2024, and we still do not have adequate weekend service. So please, when you look at the budget for next year and you look at public transportation, and I hope that you will look at this plan too, and maybe I'm hoping there's some revision to this plan for 2025, and probably the transportation director is making those revisions for next year. And I know my time is up, so again, thank you for your time, and please make sure you allocate some money for public transportation. Thank you, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Ben.
Roger Deaton, followed by Jane Horrell from Brighton Township.
Commissioner Deaton, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Deaton, Genoa Township. When we were going through reports, I noticed that this Board of Commissioners is very active and engaging in our community, more than I've ever seen. And one event that happened that was very important to our community, Patriot Week, is 9/11 through 9/17. So it starts with Patriot Day on 9/11, which we're all familiar with, and ends on the 17th of September, which is Constitution Day. It's to celebrate our Constitution. And I was very lucky to be included at the Opera House with an invitation to view and listen to Justice Markham and Judge Warren, who started Patriot Week. And they invited our very own Commissioner Nick Fiani to speak on the Constitution. And I think he did a great job, and he made us all look great, made the county look great. And I just think that needed to be talked about as well. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any further cards?
Yes, Jane, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, from Brighton Township, followed by Chuck Wright.
When you're seated and comfortable, you can begin.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak here this evening. My name is Jane Horrell, and I'm the Chief Officer of Go Live Co. Horrell Family Foundation. My husband, Dan, was hit by a distracted driver not using hands-free while riding his bike in Island Lake Recreational Park, April 24th, 2019. And he died as a result of his injuries 2 days later. Since then, the Go Live Co. Horrell Family Foundation has collaborated with many state government, national, and local organizations, and we were able to get the Hands-Free Michigan phone use signed into law in Michigan, June of this year. It is amazing what can be accomplished by staying the course and execution of a plan. The plan has not stopped with the law, as now we are focusing on enforcement and reminders with other Michigan government agencies. One of the reasons I'm here this evening is to ask for your support and action to implement the best practices as listed in the Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 of the Master Plan, and implement the 2020 Livingston County Trails Plan. With the 20 municipalities in Livingston County, which include townships and city entities, we see each entity working independently versus collaboratively. Your support and facilitation to enable these municipalities to collaborate and gain further grant funding will support the Connected Transportation Plan that includes non-motorized and reliable bus service. This supports the people's ability to achieve economic independence with the ability to shop, support local businesses, and safely reach core services. Providing bike lanes, paths, and a 7-day-a-week bus service will allow people to work, live, and play safely in Livingston County without owning a car. We have asked that the Go Live Co. Horrell Family Foundation be an agenda topic at your next commissioners meeting, October 5th. And we'd like to highlight some areas that we can begin working with you all on in implementation of the 2018 master plan.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Chuck Wright, Handy Township, followed by Doug Helserman.
I noticed a couple other feathers ruffled at the meeting today due to tabled items. And I think it's good that people are voting no and tabling items if they don't know the answer and want to get more information. Just rubber stamping things, yes, really isn't leadership. And I'd like to thank all you gentlemen for table items and voting no when necessary. And I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings.
Thank you. And the next card,
Doug Helserman.
Commissioner Helserman, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to address some of the comments that I made tonight. I didn't, I usually don't get upset about things, and I guess I did a little bit tonight. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make sure that my fellow commissioners, I have utmost respect for them and for the work that they put in. I in no way mean to disparage their work or speak ill of their character. I think this is one of the best boards that I've been working on. And Mr. Chair, I just wanted to address that with you and in the hearing of the commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Any further cards?
I have no further cards.
And if I believe our IT specialist will then tell us who's on the board for Zoom.
We do have one on Zoom, Tammy Higgins.
I'm here.
Hello, gentlemen. Hi, how are you? I had to join you by Zoom today. I just wanted to.
Hang on, ma'am. Slow down.
Ooh.
Tammy Higgins. Did I get that name correct?
That's right. Tammy Higgins.
Of
Iosco Township.
That's good. Got it. Now.
Can you hear me okay?
You can proceed. You got 2 minutes from now.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I just was saying I'm joining you from Zoom tonight, and I've been there to speak to you before about non-motorized transportation. I know, and I'm here to reinforce that message. I know the last time, I don't know if you remember, I did share what had happened to my son. And I wanted to say, the community was so loving towards us, and I appreciated that so much. And for all of those who wished us well and healing, I appreciate that. But I want to move beyond that because I don't want to see these tragedies happen to other families and some of the people who've been there today to speak to you. As leaders in our county, you do have the power, maybe not to do it all yourself, but help facilitate it or delegate it to the appropriate government agencies in our county, such as our Livingston County Planning Commission, our Road Commission, and the townships to help get us a good, plan to implement that trails plan and master plan that you all approved. You guys thought it was a good idea. And I'm like begging you to please look at it and try to get funding for it and grants. And maybe sometimes you're going to have cost sharing with the municipalities and the county, but it will benefit everyone in this county. I know you guys are trying to be fiscally responsible, but this is something that will benefit us all. I mean, I don't want to see people getting hurt crossing the street at Kroger on their bike. I don't want to see people on M59 getting hit twice. I don't want to see things like happen to my son because he was riding his bike to go fishing. Okay, he was doing a wholesome thing. He wasn't sitting on the couch playing video games. He was going and enjoying this beautiful county, and he wasn't safe. And I thought he would be. We all say how safe it is, but our roads aren't safe. We don't have one bike lane. I mean, I hear this thing that, you know, there's E. coli in the lettuce or something, and there's a big, oh God, we got to do something for safety. But every day people are dying on our roads and getting hurt. And even in the cars, because there's a young couple where the man was hurt very badly, getting his child from a play date. And now he's, you know, has traumatic brain injuries, and they're a young family. We got to do better.
Thank you.
Okay, I've knocked 3 times. Thank you.
Very good. Any further people on Zoom that would want to raise their hand at the last second now and get in before the opportunity closes? I see none.
There are none.
Thank you. The second call to the public is now closed. Item number 14, can I get a motion to adjourn in a second?
Helserman, support Deaton.
Moved by Helserman, support by Deaton. Voice vote. All in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
9-0 passes. We're adjourned.